This is Scandal News, and today we're unpacking one small word that set off a week of big whispers. Oprah Winfrey sat on Kelly Ripa's podcast and playfully stretched the name Sussexes. It was quick, it was light, and it was the kind of velvet glove moment that makes Hollywood lean in. Was it a joke, a signal, or both at once? Stay with me, because the real story isn't the syllable, it's what that syllable unlocked. Here's the scene. Two neighbors, Montecito, Sunshine, and an easy conversation. Oprah laughs about who she'd hand baby birds to if they turned up in her backyard. She lands on the Sussexes with a wink. On the word. It's not a monologue. It's not a manifesto. It's casual. But in an industry where tone is currency, casual can be louder than a headline. People clipped the audio. Comments blew up. Some heard shade. Others heard harmless humor. Insiders heard something else entirely. A temperature check. Why does a single joke carry that much weight? Because of the history. In 2021, Oprah hosted the sit-down that rewired the conversation around the monarchy, media pressure, and control of narrative. That interview was a cultural earthquake. Fast forward to now, and the energy is different. The stakes feel lighter, the anecdotes are gentler. When the main storyteller in your saga switches from thunder to a half smile, it means the center of gravity is shifting, not a collapse, more like a pivot. And pivots are where new lanes open. There's another beat you may have missed if you only saw the clip. Meghan has been tightening her own story too. On her Netflix lifestyle series, she looks at Mindy and says she uses Sussex as her last name. Simple, clean, a family frame that puts Harry, Archie, and Lilibet under one banner. Names aren't just labels, they're headline engines. Sussex signals unity. It also separates the person from the old tabloid shorthand. The message is deliberate. Judge the next chapter on what we make together, not what you remember from yesterday. Now let's talk deals, because this is where the whispers get loud. The 5-year Netflix agreement signed back in 2020 is on the clock. Multiple outlets say the umbrella contract won't continue in its original form when it expires. Others say, slow down, this game is moving toward project by project, partnerships anyway. Both things can be true. Streamers are ruthless about what drives minutes watched. They'll end a big deal and still buy a smaller series the next week if it fits the grid. Translation: even if the big headline is not renewed, expect quieter headlines about standalone projects, specials, and seasonal one-offs. If those numbers add up, you can trace the pressure lines. Spotify ended in 2023. And a stray insult from a company executive turned into the pull quote heard around the world. That one word has followed the couple ever since. Fair or not, and when a phrase sticks, it shapes rooms you can't see. Pitch calls, scheduling emails, panel invites, the lesson is brutal and simple. Attention isn't the same as leverage. Leverage requires delivery you can measure. Episodes that arrive on time, concepts that scale, stories that travel beyond your own fan base. But let's not pretend the rumor economy doesn't add fuel. Every week, a new claim pops up about who's distancing, who's over it, who's done. Some headlines are careful, some are SHT stirrers. A recurring favorite is the idea of frost with famous friends. Most of it is smoke, some of it is fire. The problem is that even fog can delay flights. Publicists play it safe. They root their clients away from anything that might spark a messy side story. That doesn't prove guilt. It proves risk models are running in the background. And in 2025, risk models call a lot of shots. So how do you fight fog? You build things people can touch. That's where Meghan's brand pivot matters. American Riviera Orchard became as ever, with a tighter look and a broader promise. Products look quiet on the outside, but they talk. Packaging tells a story. Recipes tell a story. A jar on a kitchen shelf tells a story every time someone reaches for it. If, as ever, creates repeat customers, actual fans who like the goods for what they are that chips away at the noise. Hype is a flash. Habit is a moat. Meanwhile, with love, Meghan tries a different lever. Warmth, food, friends, small rituals, guest-driven moments. It's not a courtroom. It's a table. The strategy is obvious and smart. When the meta conversation gets heavy, choose a frame that's human, useful, and replayable. Viewers don't have to agree with you to enjoy a recipe or a trick for setting a table. And if they enjoy it twice, the comment wars suddenly feel very far away. Back to Oprah. What did she actually do? She turned a complex, polarized storyline into a one-liner that everyone could project onto. That's power. That's media fluency. And yes, That's a signal to producers, to agents, to brand leads about where the wind is blowing. Not a storm, a breeze headed in a new direction. The podcast tone says, we're neighbors. Life is normal. The public read adds, maybe the era of capital D drama is cooling. If you're a buyer, you hear that and recalibrate. If you're a seller, you hear it and adjust your pitch. There's also a human layer here. Fame shrinks distance. A joke becomes a referendum. A post becomes a case file. But away from the noise, there's a family, a school drop-off, a dog on the porch, and yes, apparently, a duck chase. That neighborly detail is important because it's the antidote to the caricature. People aren't memes. They're messy, evolving, contradictory. Hollywood, however, prefers clean lines, which is why it labels and shelves people faster than real life ever could. If you're wondering what happens next, look at the incentives. Streamers want sticky formats. The couple wants sustainable platforms that don't depend on controversy. The audience wants novelty without homework. That points to smaller runs, sharper edits, fresher guests, lighter lifts, and a little surprise baked into every episode. The big swing is not the long confessional anymore. It's the short, charming proof of concept that earns a second helping. Now, because this is scandal news, let's talk about the part people keep trying to make scandalous. Did Oprah turn on Meghan? The evidence doesn't scream betrayal. It reads like evolution. A mentor figure who helped amplify a story in 2021 is now using humor in 2025 to keep that story in perspective. That's not a knife. That's stagecraft. It's what pros do when a narrative has to move from center stage to the wings, so new scenes can begin. Still, industry watchers clocked the moment for a reason. In show business, the first sign of a shift is rarely an official announcement. It's laughter. It's a slightly raised eyebrow. It's the story told with a smile instead of a furrowed brow. Those cues trickle down. Editors reframe headlines. Bookers adjust their wish lists. Partners check their dashboards and ask, what's the next lane here? The answer isn't cancellation. The answer is recalibration. Let's be honest about the couple's media arc. Phase 1 was shock. And the tell-all documentary, the memoir heat, the algorithm bonfire that created reach. It also created fatigue. Phase 2 looks more domestic. A cooking show, a product line, a softer Instagram. That creates familiarity. If Phase 3 exists, it will have to blend both edge and ease in a way that feels earned, not forced. The audience can smell effort. They can also sense when someone settles into a groove that actually fits. There's a bigger lesson hidden in this week's chatter. Celebrity is not a personality type. It's a supply chain. Makers need buyers. Buyers need data. Data needs moments that move culture. Sometimes that's a revelation. Sometimes it's a recipe. The smartest brands don't pick lanes forever. They pick a lane for right now, and they drive it like they own it. Then, when the road bends, they switch before everyone notices they already took the exit. What about the never-ending claims of so-and-so unfucked? This couple snubbed, that invite vanished. Some of those stories land. In real outlets, many live in the tabloid churn. Here's the reality. Elite social circles are logistical puzzles. Calendars clash, teams protect optics. People ghost not out of cruelty, but because silence is easier than context. None of that proves a permanent exile. It proves an industry allergic to distraction. If you want back in, you don't fight the allergy. You bring something so useful, people forget why they were avoiding you in the first place. That's why the name choice Sussex matters more than people think. It anchors a family identity that can outlast trend cycles. It also forces a writing shift. Headlines change shape. Search terms change. Narratives get edited at the root. And when you edit the root, you influence what grows on top of it. That's messaging judo. It looks like a tiny wrist flick. It sends a much larger opponent over your shoulder. So yes, a one-word joke can move the market. Not because it destroys a career, because it reindexes attention. It tells decision makers, place your bets on output, not outrage. If the next slate is calibrated quicker episodes, brighter beats, stronger craft, then the air will clear. If it isn't, the fog will thicken. That's the whole game right now. Not villain or victim, not coronation or cancellation, just execution. Let's talk numbers without getting lost in them. Big overall deals are fading across the board. Streamers prefer pilots, limited runs, and modular commitments. They can renew fast or cut loose faster. That means the Sussex strategy must be modular too. A special here, a collab there. A holiday drop timed with a show episode. When output is chunked, risk is spread. And when risk is spread, more buyers say yes. That's not less power. It's different power. One more thing about tone. You may have noticed how the conversation this month felt less heated. That's not random. It's seasonal. Summer stories are lighter by design. Brands lean into warmth and ease. It's the perfect window to reintroduce yourself, a playful podcast, a friendly neighbor story, a gentle rebrand. All of that reads like a soft reset. Not denial, not retreat. Just a change of key from minor to major. There's also craft in the way Meghan is shaping the new voice. The series dresses everyday tasks in cozy pacing. The brand materials lean tactile. Paper textures, hand-drawn marks, serif fonts that whisper instead of shout. This is persuasion at 25 miles per hour, not 90. It invites you to linger, not retweet. And it's a clever hedge against polarization. You can dislike a headline. It's much harder to dislike a loaf of bread cooling on a counter. Do the critics vanish because of better bread? Of course not. Critics keep the lights on. But when you build around use value recipes, hosting tips, garden ideas, you reroute the audience through a different door. They don't come to argue, they come to borrow. Once someone borrows 3 times, they stop arguing altogether. That's how lifestyle media wins long term. Not with fireworks, with familiarity. So where does Oprah fit as this next phase unfolds? As a barometer. If you're a student of her career, you know the laugh is a language. It often means, I see the story, I'm not living inside it. That, for the Sussexes, is both a challenge and an opportunity. It means they'll need other validators, chefs, home designers, craftspeople, guests who surprise. It means the work itself must carry the room when the spotlight swivels to the next headline elsewhere. Let's zoom out. The modern celebrity. Cycle rewards motion. Stasis reads like decline, but constant reinvention reads like chaos. The trick is to evolve on a schedule the audience can feel without being told. A name update here, a new format there, a product drop timed to a real seasonal need. This is boring to talk about and thrilling to watch when it's done right, because it turns noise into narrative and narrative into habit. Here's what I'll be watching in the next few weeks. Does with love Meghan announce a second season or a holiday special? Do we see collabs with makers who have cult credibility, not just mainstream fame? Does As ever seed products that create repeat rituals, something you run out of and happily replace? Those are the signs that the pivot isn't cosmetic, it's structural. And structural shifts are the ones that stick. And for everyone asking whether Hollywood has turned on the couple, remember this. Hollywood doesn't turn. It trends, it trends. It tests. If you deliver, it calls back. If you miss, it ghosts. That's not personal. That's portfolio management. The most effective countermove isn't a clapback. It's a calendar packed with releases that land. You want a final read on the Oprah moment? It was theater. Elegant, efficient theater. A single syllable that let a million people hear whatever they wanted to hear, while the people who actually make decisions heard one thing: proceed with caution. Proceed with craft, but yes, proceed. Because there is still an audience for this story. It just prefers a different format now. And if the question is whether the Sussex brand can thrive in that format, the answer is hiding in plain sight. It depends on making small things great. A recipe that becomes a weeknight staple. A guest who surprises you into smiling. A product that quietly earns a place in the drawer you open every day. Do that 10 times in a row, and watch how quickly the narrative changes from shade to success. Before we wrap, a word to the rumor chasers. Not every silence is a snub. Not every coincidence is a conspiracy. And not every joke is a jab. The adults in the room know the difference. They'll put money behind whatever proves it knows the difference too. That's your scoreboard now, not volume. Consistency. Oprah's laugh may have nudged the story onto a calmer road. Good calmer roads are where brands get built. If the work from here is sharp, warm, and fast, this chapter could age better than anyone expects. And if it isn't, the world will move on to the next shiny thing before the credits finish rolling. That's not cruelty. That's the clock. You just heard the playbook as it stands today. Not doom, not coronation, a narrow bridge between narrative and proof. Cross it with care and with craft. And the wind, even the kind that starts as a joke, can start pushing you forward again. This is Scandal News. Thanks for riding through the noise with me. What happens next will come down to one thing no joke can replace: the work. One detail from that podcast that deserves more light is the duck story. A mama duck, a surprise situation in the yard, a quick call. And suddenly, you have Harry and Meghan helping wrangle feathers on a sunny afternoon. It's a neighbor anecdote, almost sitcom simple, and it matters because it resets scale. For a couple whose name magnetizes controversy, the smallest slice of life moment can feel like a pressure valve. It reminds everyone that beyond the cameras there are backyard mishaps, funny phone calls, ordinary weekends. Those details humanize a headline. They also soften boardrooms that prefer predictability to chaos. There's also the social media layer. The clip of Oprah stretching Sussexes didn't just live on one platform. It hopped from Reels to X to TikTok, collecting dueling interpretations as it went. That spread shows how modern narratives work. A primary moment launches, then secondary commentary swallows it whole. By day 2, the conversation isn't about what was said. It's about what everyone thinks it meant. The lesson for any public figure is to seed your own follow-ups quickly. If you don't, the echo chamber will write them for you. Since we're here, let's clear up one point about deals that keeps getting twisted. When outlets report that a grand, multi-year agreement may not be renewed, it doesn't automatically equal exile. Streamers have shifted from big umbrellas to smaller tents. You'll see it across comedy, docuseries, even prestige dramas. A door can close on a blanket contract while 2 windows open for specific projects that test well. If with love, Meghan lands a seasonal special or a compact second run that would fit the current playbook. And about the surname moment, there's practical magic there. Newsrooms write faster when a detail is settled. Search engines surface content more cleanly when the naming is consistent. Merchandising syncs better when packaging, credit lines, and on-air graphics all match. Those quiet back-end wins compound. They save friction for the audience and for partners. Friction burned the last era. Flow needs to power the next one. Finally, a note on expectations. Part of the audience will always want a plot twist, a feud, a gotcha that sells for a day. The more durable path is slower and strangely more satisfying. Earn back attention by being useful, delightful, or both. If you're keeping score, watch for proof of life in little places. Recipes viewers actually post guest moments that trend for joy instead of outrage. Products that sell out twice because people used the first batch to the bottom. That's the quiet kind of exposed. Not someone else's bad behavior. Your own consistent delivery exposed in a good way. For anyone who's still watching.